Our story begins thousands of years ago, deep in the Amazon rainforest. The ancient legends say that the first instructions to make the ayahuasca brew came from the plant spirits themselves, who guided the Native American shamans to gather two particular plants together and combine them into a thick brew. Upon drinking this murky concoction, the shaman would then experience a transcendent perception of reality for the next 4 to 8 hours. A heightened level of sensitivity and connection to all things would overtake them, and they would have visions of geometric patterns, spirits, or supernatural formations that would unfold in the mind's eye. In this experience, they would even receive wisdom and guidance from beyond the veil. From here, the shaman would then use this heightened awareness to learn and gain knowledge of the world, and use this to guide their people so that the whole collective could thrive together in their little pocket of early civilization. To many in the world today, the story of ayahuasca's origin may seem rather far-fetched, because for the story to be true, we have to accept both that plants have souls and can communicate with people. Then again, there are over 80,000 species of plants in the Amazon rainforest alone. So how is it that these ancient people came upon such an unlikely combination to produce such a remarkable brew? Today, one of the most incredible mysteries in the world is the unique and mystical experience of ayahuasca. Growing to be known for its powerful role it can play in helping to overcome disease, addiction, depression, and anxiety, it's no wonder that in today's world, which is ever struggling with its varieties of sicknesses, so many are turning to shamanic plant medicines to see if it can be the answer they are looking for. But wait, hold up. We might be getting ahead of ourselves here. What exactly is this ayahuasca stuff anyways? Let's start with the basics. Ayahuasca is a brew, like a thick soupy drink created primarily from two plants, the leaves of the Psychotria viridis and the vine of the Banisteriopsis caapi. The Psychotria plant contains a large amount of DMT, a molecule produced by our brains in small amounts when we're dreaming, and in larger amounts both when we're born and when we die. This molecule is also found in nature, but generally has no effect on the human body when consumed. This is because our body breaks down the molecule with an enzyme called monoamine oxidase, commonly called an MAO. However, the vine of the caapi plant contains an MAO inhibitor, which allows the DMT of the Psychotria plant to pass through the stomach and into our bloodstream. When it reaches the brain, it causes an activation of the pineal gland, producing a state like lucid dreaming, except you don't have to be asleep in the slightest. This is, in a nutshell, the essential science behind what's happening with these ayahuasca journeys. However, the actual experience itself is something else entirely to behold. Ayahuasca is often described as a concentrated dose of nature, designed to help us reconnect with ourselves and the natural world. It illuminates one's consciousness, aiding any seeker to look deeper into themselves at the source of their trauma, disease, and pain, and helps them in healing these ailments from its source. From this state, we also then learn to perceive reality at deeper, more fundamental levels, and ayahuasca even helps in letting go of the personal identification with modern cultural and social systems in which so many of us have become trapped. It is for this reason that ayahuasca, along with its brother and sister plant medicines such as iboga and peyote, have become known today as sacred plant medicines, as well as great teacher plants. While many modern medicines today treat illnesses, depression, and the like on a symptom-based level, these master plants go deeper and allow anyone to dive to the root of their challenges and solve them for good. Illness, addiction, depression, and the like all fade away when our consciousness is illuminated, shining bright on the subconscious ego that is damaging us without even knowing it. What I personally find especially remarkable about ayahuasca is that once you experience it, the concept of the human soul your own spirit becomes very conceivable and directly experienceable. And it opens up a space of curiosity within you to try and understand it deeper. Of course, it's critical to note that this experience of ayahuasca only comes out when there is an intention to match it. For anyone who is familiar with the medicine today, it is well understood that these experiences are to be treated as sacred and with great reverence. It's very important to use it properly because ayahuasca opens us up to a dream state of connection with the world. And without the supportive energy of a shaman, it's very possible to become lost in the journey, which could even be damaging to the psyche. This is not to suggest that ayahuasca is inherently dangerous. No more than a hammer can be used to either build a house or smash a window. But truly, this medicine helps to teach us to understand that intention steers the reality you experience. Going into an ayahuasca journey with the intention of creating healing versus going in with the intention of just having a party will yield two very different experiences. Today, with thousands of testimonials of people having tried ayahuasca emerging all over the world, the results seem to demonstrate that this sacred brew can provide us with an experience of self-discovery, spiritual reconnection, and a healing of our hearts, provided that we use it in the right way. To many, the ayahuasca experience sounds too good to be true. A magical plant drink that cures anxiety, disease, addiction, and improves overall quality of life across the board? Is this even possible? In this very movie, we're going to find out. Sit back, relax, and journey with me today to Costa Rica and see for yourself what happens when someone participates in a plant medicine ceremony. The destination of our journey today is a place called Rhythmia. You might have heard of it. It's been growing in popularity the last few years with an endless stream of miraculous healing stories coming out of it. The whole space is beautiful, designed from the ground up and the top down to facilitate a deep, transcendent healing experience for anyone who goes there. Rhythmia features workshops, organic buffets, massages, colonic cleanses, the works. But of course, all of this is designed around these 4 potent ayahuasca ceremonies, each honoring a different tradition from different parts of Central and South America. When we first arrived, we went to the orientation workshop on Monday morning, and it was here that we got to meet Rhythmia's founder, Gerard Powell, though everyone just calls him Jerry. He begins the class with an introduction and tells us the story of Rhythmia. For most of his life, Jerry was a pretty mean guy. He struggled with some really nasty addictions and was cruel to everyone that he knew. There was even a time when he acknowledged his struggles and tried to correct his attitude towards the world. But despite getting help from world-class psychologists, nothing seemed to make a difference. Then everything changed when he was invited to Costa Rica to try a plant medicine called iboga. Iboga is another entheogenic plant medicine native to Central and South America, though it's worth noting that it's a very different experience than ayahuasca. Upon arriving at that retreat, Jerry was filled with doubts about this helping him at all. The shaman had him write down several of the most important questions he'd like to have answered, but even as he wrote them down, thoughts of leaving filled his mind. But before he could get a chance to duck out, his shaman invited him to take the medicine. Jerry looked at the shaman, looked at the medicine, and took it straight away. Then he followed the shaman's instructions to lay down and put on a blindfold. Once he acknowledged he was seeing visions, the shaman sat by his head and began tapping on Jerry's forehead. He spoke in a calm voice. "Jerry man, tell me when you see my finger." Jerry began to respond, "That's ridiculous. I'm wearing a blindfold. How could I possibly see your All of a sudden, he could see the shaman's finger tapping on his head. His hands shot up to his blindfold and was even more amazed to realize that it was still fully there, covering his eyes. I see it," Jerry responded, confused, and the shaman said, "Take a look at the ceiling." Jerry saw the ceiling of the temple through the blindfold, and the shaman commanded him, "Make it disappear." Within moments, Jerry watched as the ceiling vanished, and soon all that he could see were the stars in the night sky. "Pick a star and jump to it," the shaman instructed, and Jerry soon found himself leaving his body, shooting through the sky, flying into outer space. He heard the shaman again. "Can you see the moon?" Jerry turned and saw the moon. "Fly to the moon." Following the shaman's instructions, Jerry shot towards the moon until everything went black. A television screen appeared in his inner vision, one of those really old school TVs. It turned on and he saw two things. One was a text cursor, looking like an old MS-DOS screen. On the other side, he saw an image of the moon with two little feet sticking out of it. They were his feet, he realized, and after flying to the moon, he had actually shot straight into it and got stuck inside. "Hi, Jerry," the cursor typed. This gave him chills, and he soon discovered that he was talking to the spirit of the moon. Jerry learned that the moon could help him understand why he was so cruel, but he'd have to go and find his soul first, and so off he went. His soul appeared as a child version of himself and took adult Jerry on a journey through his past and showed him the roots of his cruelty today. As a young child, Jerry had suffered a horrifying abuse at the hand of a family member. The impact that it had on him was so intense that it disconnected him from the world and himself. This caused his heart to sour and then rot. His soul then guided him to face those responsible for his childhood trauma and to forgive them. This very act set the stage for everything to come because the forgiveness itself liberated Jerry from the pain of his past. After this experience, he was able to return to the moon. As he landed, he saw that the TV was there along with a pair of hands. His shaman guided him to ask the moon for help. She pointed at his chest and he knew he had to pull it open, and he pulled out his own heart. It was black and dead. Once again, the shaman guided Jerry to ask the moon for help, and she put her hands together and produced for him a new heart. He put it in his chest and closed it up. The moon typed, "I'll be seeing you, Jerry." And he said, "Okay," flying off back to his body. When he returned to the physical dimension, his shaman pulled off his blindfold and looked at him with a big goofy smile and said, "Happy birthday, man." And so, Jerry received a new heart, and for the first time since he was a boy, genuinely felt love inside. The next morning, he was a changed man, and he found himself acting differently than ever before. Normally, he wouldn't care about anyone around him, but he suddenly found himself talking to the other people at the retreat, learning their stories. He was amazed by the miraculous change that he'd experienced in just one night. Over the next year, Jerry did countless ceremonies. He tried the various shamanic plant medicines from peyote to ayahuasca, and through his experiences, he came to understand who he was and saw the bigger picture of the human story. Jerry was guided by the moon to abandon his existing business plans and to do something meaningful with his life. He would become an instrument of healing and was guided to create a space that would provide the highest quality of healing ceremonies he could and help raise awareness about the value of shamanic plant medicines. The moon told him where he would find the land to do it, what it would be called, and what it would look like. She also said that the best medicine to work with in a group setting would be the ayahuasca brew, and so this became the plant medicine for the space. All of the instructions flooded into his mind, and when he came out of his ceremonies, he went to work. Following the moon's guidance, he sold all of his worldly possessions and poured the resources he had into buying the land and building the place that would one day become the spiritual nexus called Rhythmia. Going through an ayahuasca journey isn't always easy, but at Rhythmia, Jerry, the shamans, and the whole staff go above and beyond in supporting and preparing everyone for their journey and transformation. During his orientation, Jerry gives everyone an explanation of how an ayahuasca experience works. He describes that there are 4 main types of journeys. The first kind is called a body journey. Essentially, the medicine goes into your body and will identify what blockages are within you that stop you from fulfilling your healing intention. Then, it will help you remove those blockages through a process called purging. Now don't worry, purging is not as scary as it sounds. It's a very natural part of the ayahuasca experience where we release old, stagnant emotions within us. These energies can be released in a number of ways: laughing, burping, yawning, dancing, going to the bathroom, or even, of course, throwing it up. In order to explain why we need to purge in the first place, Jerry explains it with this analogy. Imagine the following scene. Hey, turn that music off!
F you, Dad!
What did you just say?
I said I love you, Dad.
Damn right.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
When this event takes place, the boy here is essentially swallowing his emotional turmoil. All of the anger and frustration from this experience is pent up and sealed away inside. And don't be mistaken, there is sealed up pain in the father too. As the boy lives his life, experiences like this happen in a number of ways. Maybe there are bullies at school, his boss yells at him, his partner cheats on him. Whatever it is, these traumatic experiences build up over time, which paves the way for all manner of life problems. While these experiences may seem like temporary events, they have long-lasting roots that dig into our subconscious, silently affecting our thought process, our decisions, and even our health throughout our lives. So what ayahuasca does is help you pull up those roots, releasing the emotional trauma that was built up within you. And as mentioned, there are a number of ways this can happen. There have been a few instances where I've heard people say things like, "Oh yeah, I was yawning for an hour straight and felt so much better afterwards." Or even, "I danced the night away and now I feel amazing." Then again, sometimes it can get pretty crazy. Personally, I've had my share of violent purging, to be certain. However, what I've learned is this: while it can sometimes be painful to go through, once that energy is out of you, healing and love quickly comes to those old wounds, and you are free from the pain forever. With all of that said, purging is only one of the 4 types of journeys. The second and third types are very connected. The second is called a pinta, which is where you begin to see visions. There's literally no limit to what you can see. Maybe it'll be swirls of light and color. People often see sacred geometry. You might even see people you know or animals you've had in your life. But if one of your visions makes contact with you and begins to talk with you, now you've moved to the third type of journey, which is called a consult, when the subject of your vision is now engaged with you in some form of communication. And now the final type of journey is extremely rare and is considered to be the most prized. It's called a nada. And what happens is that the medicine essentially puts you to sleep and you don't even seem to experience anything. The Colombian tradition believes that what is happening here is that the spirit of the medicine puts you to sleep to go deep through your ancestral lineage in your genetic history and repair trauma and huge events from your past lifetimes or those of your family bloodlines. When you come out of it, you may not have directly experienced any visions or purging, but you may suddenly find yourself knowing something new or feeling more evolved than you previously had.
I didn't have any feeling after the first shot until I had a first purge, which was going to the toilet, came back, and then I started feeling it. And the first thing that came to me was I was a bug, like a little bug. And then I felt like all this sensation as a bug in my body. And like, oh my God, I was looking at my hand, like a bug-like everything. It was a great feeling. And then I felt all the wind and trees and plants, other bugs, animals talking to me. And it was a pleasant feeling. And then the next thing I realized was I became an animal. I don't remember what animal I was, but I was an animal, like hairy animal. Same thing, I was talking to the nature. And then another thing happened was I became a wolf. I remember that because I saw my children, my family next to me. It's like a husky looking wolf. I was in Siberia, like looking over the like stars and like at night on the snow. And then I realized I could be anything in the nature, like anything that's living. I can be any of this. It felt so good. And I had another purge, so I had to go to the toilet, so it kind of paused, came back, lay down again, and I became my boyfriend. I was him. And it felt so good and weird and like interesting, like, oh my God. I had a exact same hand that he has. I felt just like him and I felt how much he loves me, which sometimes we doubt, you know, like do our parents or my partner really love me? Sometimes, like completely cleared. And then the next thing, I was Alberto. The really, really nice dude that we met. Like, I love Alberto, and I became him. I'm like, oh my God. I even had his accent, Peruvian Spanish accent. I'm like, oh my God. And then this came to me. I am you. I'm everyone. I'm anything in the world. And if I don't like something that other people do to me, it's because I have it in me. It's just me. All the good things, all the bad things, I have everything, and I'm one, and we are all one. That's the best experience I've ever in my life. And after that, my journey ended, and I felt such a good feeling, like, this is it, I figured. Yeah, that was my best experience ever in my life.
It began with a deep spiritual rebirth. There was this moment where I was split into two bodies. One was a very defeated masculine boy, and one was a dead body of a female. We were put into a pot by a great being and boiled to a crazy inferno that created all of this smoke that shot up, all of the energy of residual of those two parts of myself were destroyed and alchemically reconstructed into a new body. And then a being was over me, over this new body, and blew into my nostrils the breath of life. I emerged as an awoken new creature, as a new thing, as a new human. And standing over me were actually two beings. One was Thoth, and the other was Enki. And they were smiling at me, being like, welcome. Welcome to your new life. Enki left me in Thoth's care and went off. And Thoth and I stayed together for so much of the ceremony, and he guided me to be wise.
I had an experience where my intention was about letting go. It was about, why do I always feel the need to like do so much or hold on to things or like want to do all this stuff. And halfway through the experience, I get this sharp pain in my back, and my back starts seizing up. I'm usually pretty comfortable with the medicine, but there was a point in this experience where it just kept getting worse and worse, and I felt like I needed help. And I remember saying, Jesus Christ, like my back hurts, and all of a sudden Jesus pops into my awareness, and I'm like, wow. And he wasn't like the Jesus you would expect with like, you know, robes and like the throne crown of thorns. He was like a cool modern day Jesus, and I was like, Jesus, is that you? And he was like, yeah, you know it's me. And I'm like, what do you ask Jesus? And I was like, what's it like to be Jesus? And I'm instantly taken into this experience where I'm being crucified on a cross, and my back pain is just getting more intense. But as I'm realizing, because at first I didn't realize what was going on, but I'm realizing as I'm ascending and I'm feeling this feeling, I can see a crowd of faceless people, but I can see their energy bodies, and I could see this feeling of nothing but compassion and forgiveness. That was the only feeling, and there was zero pain. There was zero pain. As long as my awareness was on that, there was zero pain. It was about totally letting go. And that was the teaching. And so then I think, did I meet Jesus? Was I experience what he experiences? But I think maybe not, who knows? What I do know is the medicine provided me that experience that I needed to understand what I was asking for. And that was the best way it could communicate it to me. It was by having that experience and seeing it was nothing but pure love and forgiveness and compassion. And then the same night I ended up meeting John Lennon and Buddha in this wild sort of change of events, but both of them had the same message. Buddha was just like, you don't get it, just let it be. It's just about let go. It's just about being. Try to explain this in thousands of texts, it's the same thing. It's just let go. And John Lennon was like, let it be. By the end of that, we were all singing Let It Be, Meet Jesus and Buddha, and I was laughing. I couldn't believe what was going on. It was like a mix of like, I wasn't sure if this is my imagination or is this really happening, or am I creating this? Is this like a part of my imagination? And what I came to the conclusion was, it's all part of this learning that I needed to have. It was creating that experience that would be most impactful and memorable for me, right?
So was after that whole thing, did your back still hurt?
No, that was totally gone. Like yeah, no back pain at all. It was like by the end of it, it was gone. Like as soon as I started realizing what the teaching was, right? Where I was probably holding on to something before that. It was interesting.
It was a profound experience being here. I thought it was a vacation. I'm very, very overworked at work. And I said, I'm just gonna take a nice vacation in Costa Rica and relax. So when I got here, it was amazing. Everything was beautiful. I was feeling better already. And I was so excited to go in my first ayahuasca ceremony. So wrong. It is not a vacation, but it's so much better than a vacation. My first experience was terrifying, but I learned so much. My second experience was one of the most profound and mystical experiences of my life. I went past my comfort zone and I kept hearing the message say, you know, go to what's hard, don't go to what's easy. The universe rewards bravery. So I went up for a second drink and I knew that that was the thing I had to do, but I was so scared and so weak. But I crawled and I knew I had to do it. I just crawled and I found my courage and I stood up in front of the shaman and I'm like, hey, guess what? You know, I'm not afraid anymore. And he looked at me and he goes, happy birthday. And he gave me my other drink. And I drank that and I thought that this has to be the cap of my experience. But it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a whirlwind of ego beating throughout the rest of the ceremonies. I learned so much about humanity and what drives humanity and what exactly the earthly plane is. And on the last day was the purging day. I was a bit scared, but I knew I could handle it. I was kind of sick of really bad, scary, intense experiences that I said I just want to have fun. And so I took the thing and I didn't purge for a long time until the shamans dusted me off with feathers in a circle and all of a sudden I could feel myself dying. I became so enraptured in everything all at once. It was so surreal, I couldn't stop it because usually before I just opened my eyes, but I couldn't open my eyes and everything was just death and dying. I fell to the floor softly and then all of a sudden I started thrashing my legs around. They had to carry me out and I didn't know what was happening at first. But then, I don't know what happened, but I was pinned to the ground, not by anyone, but by my imagination. And I started seeing through lights and lights and lights and lights, and my whole body turned to energy. And lights were everywhere, and I could feel someone orchestrating, like a shaman, a particular shaman, orchestrating my whole experience. And I felt my body being renewed at that time, which was amazing, and everything collapsing, expanding, collapsing, expanding, collapsing, expanding, and then going from one consciousness to the next, and every single answer in the universe was being revealed to me. One by one, I flipped over, another answer, flip over, another answer, flip over, another answer, and then everything was just connected and everything had an order and everything had a reason. And I knew that everything was connected. Nothing happened by accident. I was so certain about that. And I could feel all this love around me. That was me. And I could also feel the shaman and his love, guiding the whole process. So it was more like feeling a safety that I could experience this for myself. And when I woke up, I just felt whole, completely whole and certain that I've ever felt in my life.
On plant medicine, on ayahuasca, I think the most amazing thing I've ever seen is the Castle of Divinity. It started out as a snake and it turned into a woman that her beauty transcends description. And then from that, it turned into a palace. And in that, while looking at that palace, it showed how life works. A part of it was focused on the earth. And it was focused at the smallest minutia. And you could see people hating each other. And then it went up maybe 10,000 feet. And then it looked a little different. And it keeps, the further you get away from it, the more peaceful it becomes. And it might look crazy, but it's perfectly orchestrated like an ant colony. I can't hurt you without hurting me, and I can't help you without helping me. And that the overriding glue that holds the whole thing together is love. Even though it can look like so many different things, even anger is a shade of love. And how there's this one soul that we're all from, and that anything that happens to us is even beyond good or evil. It's of this divine order And even though it doesn't look, and I hate to talk like this because it seems fragmented and shit, but even the worst, most horrendous crimes are still under the arc of love. It's crazy to understand, and we're all playing our part, and it's up to us to decide when we no longer want to play the part that we were playing. We want to play something different, yeah. And then we move that, and then someone else moves into our. It's this crazy thing, dude.
The late great Terrence McKenna, he likes to say that the shaman is a mixture of the doctor, the scientist, and the artist. Somebody who has put themselves through healing and has gone through those situations and has done the medicine enough to that they can show that to other people as well. And there's a lot of shamans out there. If somebody has an inkling in their heart that they're a truth seeker, knowing that they're not alone in this world, never, then there is a path for them. And the medicine really wakes us up to that, the shaman within.
The most amazing thing is the ceremony, and it's always just seeing all the love and the healing. It's always that. There's nothing more than that. It's just, I'm always blown away by just the pure love and the connection and the energy and the healing that provides for everybody.
We're not doing this for the same thing that motivates most people to start a business, right? So our initial motivation is different. Because of that, growth is not a real high priority to me. I want to always get better at what we're doing, So if it gets a little bigger, it gets a little bigger. What I'd really like to have happen is it to become a huge success. And so other people open them up, not me, so that other people open them up all over the world. That this thing does so well, and when I say so well, I do mean financially, but I also mean that the healings that occur are so deep and so many that people in conventional medicine and government has to say, look at this, look what happened here, and then starts a movement away from traditional healing centers, more to centers like this, where they're not just giving you a pill to not have a headache for a day, but removing that headache for the rest of your life. Like this is real. This is really real.
One of the most memorable things is there was a woman who was purging a lot, and then after she was done purging, I was there for her, got her some tissue, give her a sip of water, and then she wanted to go out and watch the stars, be outside, so I helped her outside, and then she stopped and looked outside like it was the first time she's ever seen the world. And then she told me, she said, I just purged out my cancer. And then after she went home, she ended up going to the doctor and the cancer was gone. And then she still comes back and she still does more work because there's always more healing to do. The medicine isn't just a doctor, but she is a teacher. And there's always more healing, revealing, getting back to who we truly are.
In the simplest form, I think most people are run by their subconscious mind. And most people are in a fight and flight state most of the time because of society, because of work, the way we're brought up, and we're so lost. And when you have an ayahuasca experience, it peels back all these layers at once. So you can really see the true essence of yourself and what's really important. And it gives you that opportunity to then make changes. Ayahuasca is not going to change your life by itself. It'll give you the opportunity to change your life. It'll present that opportunity to you, and a place like this gives you all those other support mechanisms, the cleanses, the classes, the breath work, to really give you that push and opportunity to make those changes. And then it's up to you, the lessons that you learned, how you're going to integrate that into your daily life now once you step off this place. And there's also amazing tools that really provides for that too. But the ayahuasca in general will do that. It makes you really want to support nature, to give back, to sort of connect with people. And that's what's going to make the world a better place. People opening to that awareness of what their true nature is and who they really are. And the more people that can do that, it's happening. Like ayahuasca is spreading across the world right now. Plant medicine is coming into the awareness because I think the planet is raising the vibration, saying, hey, we need to sort of wake up here. Because we can change things like that if everyone is on board saying, hey, let's change the way we operate, let's change the way we treat each other and the planet. And I think ayahuasca is one of the greatest opportunities as a catalyst for change.
So I stand with Jerry in hopes and dreams that one day, places like Rhythmia will exist all over the world in abundance, and the world leaders with power over social systems will see the value without question. I mean, really, what would happen if these guys were to try it?
Before I came here, my sisters never let me touch them. I would always kind of try and hug them, they'd be like, go away. And like coming here, by the second day, I received the most hugs I've gotten from them in as long as I've come